got Marcus Guiliano, chef owner of Aromatime Bistro, who's been certified since July of 2008, with over 186 green points, 3-star certified green restaurant, and has implemented over 45 environmental steps. And Marcus also on his own is an advocate for all sorts of wonderful issues around greening restaurants that he might touch on. So thank you very much for coming.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. Let's see, what motivated me to do this? You know, there's a direct correlation between healthy planet and healthy body. And 12 years ago when my wife was pregnant with our first, I said, wow, I've screwed my life up pretty bad. I'm on all these medications, I'm overweight, because I was eating the food and living the lifestyle that we all, us restaurateurs, live. And I decided that, you know, the only way around this was to start eating healthier and be conscious of what I'm doing and what I'm putting my food in, where my food's coming from, and all this kind of stuff. And everything sort of snowballed. And within 3 months, I was off of every medication, including asthma of 28 years. And I found that this was now my lifestyle. So greening of my restaurant came because this is what I believe in, this is what I do, and this is what I feel that is the right thing to do. I had a conversation with some chefs the other day, and we were talking about ingredients and the prices, and one chef looked at me and goes, wow, I guess that's what it costs to buy real food, doesn't it? They started throwing out, you know, hexane gas and all these things, and that's in our food supply. And they were like, I was like, yeah, that's what real food costs. Not that it costs much more, but when you look at the cost sometimes, it's like, oh my gosh, I could never afford that. And my thing is, well, I could never afford not to do it. So healthy body, healthy planet, it's all connected. So that's what really motivated me. Now, way before we got certified green, what really motivated was because the greenwashers out there, like Michael said, there's a ton of greenwashers. And I can see through it, and the more guests now can see through that. And it drives everybody crazy because you feel betrayed. You know, you hear of a big brand or a restaurant or anything, and you feel this betrayal, and it gets you upset. And I was like, you know, I hope that my guests don't think I'm greenwashing. I can walk them outside and show them the compost pile, I can show them the garden, I can put their food in, you know, and I made jokes for years about our to-go containers. I said, if you're hungry, you can eat the to-go container. It's made from rice. And people like that, and they laughed, and you know, and so they noticed that, okay, you're gonna go to a green place and they're giving you stuff in styrofoam to go. I mean, that's just like, well, what's going on here? So me, it was, I wanted to be legitimate and do this 100% right and be able to brag, because it's something that I'm very proud of. And I tell my story over and over and over on the internet, and I love doing it. We've had a tremendous response from our guests, because when you can show them pictures, now we have a few farm pictures in our restaurant, and it's nice to make the connection. We all want to know where our food comes from to a certain extent. And you know, it's one thing to put it on the menu, say we use XYZ farm, but then when there's a picture of me at the farm and it's on the wall, or me in a cheese room, a cave cheese room, people kind of feel that connection more, and that's kind of like gets them in a good mood to know that I'm out there being their advocate. And I think that's the one thing that people really appreciate about what my wife and I do at our restaurant is it takes their thinking out of the process. They're overloaded when they walk into a restaurant sometimes, especially when you walk into Le Bernardin and you see all their great wine lists. Now you're overloaded. And when you can go to a restaurant and know that they're taking care of you, that they're certified in the proper way, that they're getting audited, and whatever it is, that they've done the research, that's the biggest thing. Our guests keep saying, we get an education when we come here, and not only have we created, and we've been open 10 years in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York in the Catskills. There were bets on us when we first opened that we wouldn't stay open. And I think people don't believe that we've been open 10 years. And because we have the most incredible, loyal guests that come into our restaurant that won't go anywhere else, that can't go anywhere else, that don't want to go anywhere else because of everything that we do and the feeling that they get when they come inside. And it's all because they put their trust in us. And I mean, that's, consumer trust is huge. As far as employees, we no longer hire employees, we hire superstars. and that's made a huge difference in my business. I make jokes to guests. Guests say, "Oh, aren't you cooking tonight?" And I say, "I haven't cooked in years." They go, "You haven't? Well, aren't you working tonight?" And I said, "I do as little work as possible here." And they'll look at me and they'll go, "What do you mean?" I go, "I do as little work as possible here. I create the system, and the system manages the staff." And they're like, "Well, how do you get such good staff?" I said, "Because we have high standards. We have high standards with what we serve, what we do, our training. We have high standards across the board. But when I place an ad, I'm getting people that want to go out of their way to work for a green certified restaurant. They're like, I'm at this conviction because I know that it changed my life. I'm hiring people that have the same conviction that I do, that then carries on to the guests because they feel proud about what they're doing. Employees know what we're all up to or what we're not up to, and they're going to brag about whatever we're doing. And my employees, my staff, my superstars, as I call them, keep bragging and bragging and bragging. And we just hired 2 new staff members. I mean, I've had staff members with us for 10 years. And I just hired 2 because my bartender and a busser moved to Florida. And I was like, oh my gosh, the whole process began. We had so many applicants that were in tuned to what we were doing. They handpicked us out of all the ads in upstate New York. A lot of restaurants are always looking. There's a huge turnover. My turnover, I mean, I can't throw a number out at you, but it's very, very, very low. And when somebody turns over, we usually promote them to being a guest. So it's because they can't work with us anymore because they've got a job teaching or something. They just went through graduate school or whatever. So now they become a guest of ours because they're fans of ours. They believe in what we believe in. That's the best feeling when you promote an employee to guest, to a good guest. That's awesome. You know, I feel that it's our obligation as restaurateurs, you know, just like it was my obligation to take care of my daughter and serve her the right food because now I'm responsible for other people. We're all responsible for other people that walk into our restaurant. We're responsible for the environment. It wouldn't make sense for us to not use a sustainable source of anything because, you know, we don't want to be that fisherman that overfished the river that is out of a job. We want to be able to make sure that everything from here forth makes this restaurant industry viable and that makes our environment viable. So just like I had to take care of now my daughter because now she puts her trust in me, that's how I treat my restaurant. And you know, it drives me crazy when I go out and like, I wish it just banned styrofoam altogether. That's the magic wand right there. Just that's my pet peeve. My staff knows if they go out and get something somewhere else, which very rarely happens, they bring our to-go containers to the other restaurant. Because they might want sushi or they might want something else. They'll take our to-go containers and go across the street and package up food in a good to-go container or take a plate. So, you know, the magic wand is it's something that we have to do, we need to do. But, you know, these companies are still out there making cheap stuff. They're still out there making the styrofoam. They're still out there doing all these things that are giving us restaurateurs a price point. Am I going to spend 4 cents on a to-go container or 14 cents on a to-go container? And of course, most restaurants don't care about that 14 cents as opposed to the 4 cents. Or I'm going to spend the 4 cents. So if that magic wand I could wave, I just take that 4 cents option away and saying we're all on a level playing field. We all have to do our part. It's about preserving our future in our restaurant and in the environment. Feeling we get it, but it's great when you can walk people outside. We have an outdoor patio and garden. That's one of the things I'm most proud of. People walk outside and we have like all these things growing out in our backyard they can eat in the backyard and within the middle of the garden. And that people really get the connection when they say, oh wow, that's really, really awesome. So that's one of the big things that I'm proud of is our garden. I used to have a compost pile back there, but all of our compost now goes to farmers and it gets fed to pigs and chickens. And it was really neat going to visit the farm one day because we do young Thai coconuts and we go through a lot of them. I use them now for kindling wood. If anybody else uses young Thai coconuts, I save them dry and it's great kindling wood. But at one point they were going to the farm and it was neat to go watch the chickens. The chickens would stick their heads inside the coconut and scrape out anything that our guests had left behind. And I advertised for a while that our chicken eggs were coconut fed. And it was really cool. And we had pictures of, and I did a video on YouTube and put up there of the chickens sticking their head in and eating out all this coconut. And that was really, really cool. You know, I didn't do this to save money. I did this because this is what I feel my obligation is to do. But when you save the money, that's like the icing on the cake. That's just like, wow, you know, I'm doing all this work and wow, look how much less water I use. 50%, that's an amazing number, by the way. That's just awesome. But that's not out of the ordinary. If you're taking a standard faucet that is pumping out, how many gallons of water out of a standard faucet?
Depends how old it is.
Depends how old it is. Down to a 0.8 gallon or something, to put on these efficient aerators on. I mean, my staff turns these on and they're like, where's the water? I'm like, it's coming, just relax. You know, it's there. As opposed to just turning on water. I mean, how many times in restaurants do we forget to defrost something? Eat shrimp or something. Turn the water on and walk away from it. And that drives me crazy. Now with this low flow, it's just like, there's a much better option if we have to do something on the fly like that. But not only are you saving the water, like the 50%, that's huge, but how much that water was heated? How much oil, how much other fuels went into heat hot water? Imagine cutting out 25% of your hot water. That's amazing, that's awesome. Not only are you saving the water, you're saving the oil or whatever, however you're heating your water to go into it. So that's been like our best thing, the low flow water, because I can see when the faucets go on, every day I'm reminded, wow, I'm saving money, I'm saving water, I'm saving a resource that's about to become extremely rare and is in certain parts of the world. And I'm saving the resource of heating it. So this has been a great experience for my wife and I in our restaurant. And it's part of our conviction, it's part of what we do, it's part of, you know, we walk the walk, talk the talk, and when you save money, which happens as you see, it's an amazing benefit. So I wouldn't do business any other way, honestly. I want to feel good about what I do every day, and my staff feels good about what we do, and you know, that's the name of the game.
Thank you.